Hey guys, and welcome back to my page. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Carrie, and I read a book a day to give you the best thriller, mystery, and horror book recommendations. So if you're into that, make sure to give me a follow. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, Goodreads, Fable, and I would love to see you guys all there. All of the links can be found in the description below. I'd also really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications so you know whenever I'm posting a new video. Today is day one of a reading vlog, and I'm doing a buddy read for Crafting for Sinners by Jenny Kiefer. This book comes out on October 7th, and I will be buddy reading with my friends from TikTok, Madison and Kelsey, and you guys should definitely be following them if you are not. I will have all of their information in the description below. This vlog will be across 3 different days as we're reading 100 pages per day and then sending our thoughts as we read, and I am so excited, so let's find out what this book is about. Ruth is stuck. She's stuck in her small religious hometown of Kill Devil, Kentucky, stuck in the closet and stuck living paycheck to paycheck. After her manager finds that she is living with her girlfriend, Ruth is fired from her job at New Creations, a craft store owned by a church that dominates life in Kill Devil. In an act of revenge, Ruth attempts to shoplift some yarn but is caught red-handed. Instead of calling for the police, the employees lock her in the store and attack her. As Ruth fights for her life using the craft supplies at hand, she plunges deeper into the tangled web of the New Creations, who are hiding a terrible secret that threatens not only her but the entire town. Urgent, scathing, and utterly original, Crafting for Sinners cements Kiefer's status as a dazzling new star in horror. When I was at StokerCon in Stamford, Connecticut, I was recommended this book. I was told that you should think about how many ways you can be unalived in a craft store, and it's also culty. So that calls to me, and I'm so excited to read this. So I'm going to read the first 100 pages, and I will be back with my thoughts. Okay, this book is immediately starting out with a podcast element called Cold Cases, Lost Faces, and I am so into a podcast element in a story, so I'm very excited. And you guys, we are so lucky because my friends Madison and Kelsey also have some thoughts to share with you guys. This book didn't waste any time diving straight into the action. Right away, I was gripped by the intensity of the situation and charmed by the craft store setting as well as our FMC. With the first kill scene, I was gagged by the dark comedic commentary from the FMC Ruth surrounding the situation and immediately felt a connection to her. The scene was set perfectly and I found myself locked in, holding my breath in anticipation for all to come. I was absolutely flying through the pages. I could not read this fast enough. Okay, I finished the first 100 pages of Crafting for Sinners by Jenny Kiefer, and oh my gosh, this book is such a wild ride. It is gory with its body horror, so if you don't like that, it's not for you, but it's also darkly comedic, and I was chuckling a few times throughout. I'm having so much fun with this. I would say the chapters are mid-length. They're like 10 pages each. I'm at chapter 10 at a page 101. There's an added layer of the FMC having a medical issue, and so I'm curious of how that is going to play into the story more as I read on. There's also 2 different storylines happening in this book. There's the podcast element that I mentioned, and that's covering an entirely different case than the one our FMC is going through. And so I'm curious how these 2 storylines are going to connect later on, but right now I'm just having an absolute blast and I'm just eating this up. I'm curious to see how my opinions on this might change or if I will just fall more and more in love with it as I read, but I'm having a great time. I think I've already said that a bunch, but it's true. I'm having an absolute great time. But before we move on to day 2, let's get some thoughts on the first 100 pages from my friends Kelsey and Madison.
Okay, my initial thoughts on the first 100 pages of Crafting for Sinners. Number 1, that takes no time to get into the action, if you want to call it that, and that is my favorite thing about a horror book or a thriller book. I want things to start happening immediately, and this does. It's not a slow burn, that's for sure. There is a podcast element which isn't directly related right now to the main story, so it's kind of interesting to have that plopped in there. I love it so far. I love when there's like epistolary elements in a book. There's a lot of mystery into why Ruth is really trapped in this crafting store, who the New Creationists actually are, what their actual agenda is a mystery, and I love that. I feel like we're gonna slowly uncover what their plan is and why they have Ruth trapped in this like craft store slowly over time. Ruth's character is amazing. She is all over the place and kind of is just like going with the flow and working with what she has. She's not very thought out as a person, which is the opposite of me. I have my whole life planned out, so it's fun to read about her. And knowing her backstory is really important to this story, and I think part of her past is going to play a bigger part in what's happening here.
This starts off action-packed and gory, which is really all I'm looking for in a horror novel, but I'm loving our main character, Ruth. Now, she's not making the best decisions, honestly, but she feels like such a real person to me. I'm really enjoying the podcast elements and flashbacks sprinkled in. I feel like it adds to the building tension and really keeps you engaged. Now, I have no idea how she's going to get out of this mess, but I'm really excited to see where this story goes. And honestly, it's been such an easy reading experience so far. You really can just fly right through it.
We are on day 2 of reading Crafting for Sinners by Jenny Kiefer. Yesterday, I had such a hard time of stopping myself from continuing on, so I'm so excited to dive back into the story. Turns out I'm a lost sheep. Because this is such a fast-paced story, I was a tad worried that I'd find it lacking in character development, but the way the story weaves in the background of Ruth and her relationship was done so seamlessly that it didn't take me away from the heart-pounding action, and it only enhanced my investment in the story and the well-being of the FMC. The plot was jam-packed full of gory and creative kill scenes that kept me on my toes and absolutely disgusted me. I was finding this to be such a bingeable read, and I didn't want to put it down. Okay, so I'm loving this. We have unlocked some new characters. It's getting very intense and culty, and the FMC Ruth is just totally carrying this story. I think she's come into her own. She's found her purpose, and she knows why she's there now. She is just fighting for her life and fighting to get back to her girlfriend Abigail. I think the development of the love story within this like totally chaotic and heart-pumping scene that we're dealing with is a nice little added layer of delight amongst the chaos, if you will. There have been some new developments, and I'm curious to see how everything will connect and pan out in the end. This has me on the edge of my seat. I really wish I could just power through the rest of it right now. While this last 100 pages didn't have the podcast element that I was really enjoying, and I want to get back to that and see how it all ties in, it did have a forum post, and that brought up some new interesting ideas and sparked some theories in my head, so I'm curious to see where that will go. But now let's turn it over to Kelsey and Madison and get their thoughts on the second 100 pages of Crafting for Sinners.
Okay, next 100 pages of Crafting for Sinners. Wow, did this pick up? It was already picked up. It's picked up even more. Ruth has kind of gotten her shit together and has a little bit more of a plan, which I love. She's turning into such a badass, and I am rooting for her so hard. We also were introduced to more characters in these next 100 pages, which has caused more questions than answers, which is good. It's adding to the mystery. It doesn't feel too overwhelming. We did learn about why Ruth is trapped, and that is really cool to know because Loomis, don't even try it. I also really like how in this book there's no main characters really besides Ruth. Everyone else is kind of a side character for now. There's some secretive people who you feel like they'll play a really big part, but all of the focus really is on Ruth and how she is feeling and how her past is playing into this and how her relationship plays into it and how this cult plays into her life and how things could change. It's just, she's a really great character, and I think that is what's making this book so great so far. I am so excited to read the ending of this book. I think it's going to wrap up nicely, and I am excited to see if we get all of the answers to the questions that we have.
First of all, pace, still fantastic. Second, I have theories. Zeke saw Kelsey's cat and said, not on my watch. Now, I was starting to get a little burnt out with a repetitive language, and then the more I sat and thought about it, the more it feels a lot more realistic with the story, because with these certain cults, they often do that. They often use that repetitive language. Certain scenes that I'm really enjoying, there are these flashbacks where you can really start to see the start of some of these people going down this pipeline. Honestly, it just feels very realistic, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of the story. My first thought this morning was this book and some of the theories that I'm having. I really haven't been able to think of anything else while I'm not reading this one. I think I am right on something that's about to happen, but I'm curious to see.
Hey, we are now on the third and final day of the reading vlog for Crafting for Sinners, and oh my goodness, this morning Madison and Kelsey were just texting it up and building on top of each other's theories, and I think we've solved all of the connections within this book, and I'm so excited to see if the theories are correct. Before we get into reading, make sure you've hit that like button, you've left a comment, and make sure you subscribe to my page and turn on post notifications so you always know when I've posted a new video. As the plot thickened and more complications arose, I found myself surprised by each new shocking and demented development. My head was spinning and my heart was racing as I came upon the heart-wrenching, chaotic, and explosive climax. This story took my emotions on a roller coaster and gave me whiplash, disgusted me, intrigued me, charmed me, entertained me. It consumed my thoughts and freaked me out, and it also made me laugh. Truly, what a read. Okay, I finished it and I really enjoyed it. All of the theories that we had discussed in our group chat turned out to be what happened, and I am okay with that. It did not hinder the experience whatsoever. This had me on the edge of my seat and holding my breath the entire time. It was very fast-paced and riveting, and there was a lot of gore that I really enjoyed, and I really loved how everything connected together, and the resolution afterwards was also awesome. I will say I did feel the ending was slightly rushed, but beyond that, this was a great time. I really don't have anything negative to say about this book. It had sapphic romance and high stakes and a lot of tension and all of these moving parts that work together so seamlessly. And for now, I think that I would rate this 4.25 stars. So yes, I really enjoyed this and I definitely recommend that you guys pre-order it. It comes out on October 7th and I have put some pre-order links below, but I always recommend that you pre-order from your local indie bookstore instead. Now let's hear some final thoughts from Madison and Kelsey, and thank you for watching, you guys.
Okay, I finally just finished Crafting for Sinners. That was an explosive ending. I think there was too much action for me to even break it all down. So much happened. All of my questions were pretty much answered. There is one thing that is kind of left a little ominous, which I appreciated. It was really fun because us three who read this together were theorizing what was going to happen and who was what and what this cult's motive, some of these motives were, and who was who, because there's so many characters. We were right about some of it. This is a very fun book to read with other people because there are so many twists and turns that we got to theorize about. Overall, my rating for this book will probably be 4 out of 5. I'd say even like 4.25 out of 5. I loved this book, and maybe it was the experience of reading it with friends, but it was still a pretty damn good book.
Talk about an explosive ending. From page 1 to the very end, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Several scenes where I had to physically stand up because I was in shock. Definitely a fast-paced horror novel. I could not put it down because I needed to get to the bottom of what is going on in this weird little town. I think for me, I'm rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. As I mentioned previously, some of the writing felt a little repetitive, and I do wish we would have gotten more information on a certain element that is in this story. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to see what else Jenny Kiefer comes out with, and I'm really excited to figure out what we're buddy reading next.
Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad you were here. Again, I wanted to remind you to make sure you like and subscribe and turn on post notifications, and I'll see you next time.